Yo, 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 yo. All right, guys. We're in Module 3 now. We're going to talk about proportional relationships. So, two key terms here, proportional relationship and constant of proportionality. Constant of proportionality and proportional relationships can be described by an equation of y equals k times x. So, if we need to write that bigger, we can. But the big thing is this k, this is the constant of proportionality. So, I'm going to write all that out. There we go. So your equations are really going to look like this, like y equals 2x. Or maybe y equals negative 4x. The y and the x will always be y and the x, but the constant proportionality will change based on the problem. So, looking at this, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. Here's how we do this. Megan earns $12 an hour at her part-time job. We want to show that the relationship between the amount that she earns and the number of hours she works is a proportional relationship. And if it is proportional, we can write an equation for that relationship. If it's not proportional right now, we're not going to be able to write it. So, the way we do this is every single time of a table. If a table is organized like this, the top is the x values, the bottom is the y values. Okay? And what we do is we want to figure out, well, we want to set up a ratio as y divided by x. So that's how we have it over here. We have amount earned is the y values. The number of hours is the x values. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that for every single piece of this table. And this is checking to see if something is proportional or not. So I'm going to figure out, are all of these equivalent fractions? Is this division going to give me the same exact fraction each time? If I do 96 over 8, 48 over 4, 24 over 2, 12 over 1. So what I'm doing is I'm taking the y value and I'm dividing it by the x value. And I'm doing this all 4 times, and if it's proportional, I would get the same answer each time. 12 divided by 1 is 12. 24 divided by 2 is 12. 48 divided by 4 is 12. And 96 divided by 8 is also 12. So every single time I took the amount of money earned, I divided it by the number of hours, and I got the answer of 12. Because they earned $12 an hour. So if they worked 4 hours, I multiplied by that by 12, I get to 48 hours. So because of that, that number 12, the one that I divided by each one to get, this is my constant of proportionality. Or we can call it the COP, the constant of proportionality. So now I can write an equation in the form, since it is proportional, so yes, it is proportional because I got the same answer each time. So now I get to write an equation in the form of y equals k times x, and I just replace that k with that constant of proportionality. So because I did 12 divided by 1, 24 divided by 2, 48 divided by 4, 96 divided by 8, and I got 12 each time, I place that 12 here, and this is my equation, y equals 12 times x. The reason why this is the equation is if I plug in a value for x, let's say I plug in the value 2 for x. Well, that means x, we said x represents the number of hours. That's why the top is x. So x represents the number of hours. So they work 2 hours. If I multiply that by 12, y tells me how much money they earn. Well, 12 times 2 is 24. So that's why they earn $24. So this is the equation that I can use where I can submit any value for x, any number of hours they work, plug that in for x, and that's going to tell me how much money they earn, which is y. Okay. Now, let's look at another one here. This graph shows the relationship between the weight of an object on the moon and its weight on Earth. Write an equation for this relationship. I want you guys to try this out on your own first and see how you do. So pause it, try it, see how it goes, and let me know if you have any issues. Okay. And when I say let me know if you have any issues, I mean you're going to check your work, and then hopefully if you have any issues, you can talk to me, I guess, in spirit, since I'm not with you. I'm only in your ears right now, talking to you while you're at home. Now, so remember, the top is always the x, the bottom is always the y. So it's always y divided by x. And this has already kind of been set up for you as moon weight divided by earth weight. So the moon weight, let's see here, is 1. The earth weight is 6. I also have 2 over 12, 3 over 18, and 5 over 30. Now I could actually do 1 divided by 6 to figure out what that is, and then do 2 divided by 12 and 3 divided by 18. Or I could just simplify these fractions, and they should all simplify to the same thing. So if I simplified all these, oh no, my pen just died. Uh-oh, I'll just have to use it by a mouse, and I apologize if this doesn't look good. So when I simplify, I have to divide, I could divide these by 2. 2 divided by 2, well, that's 1. 12 divided by 2 is 6. So 2/12 is 1/6. I can divide these ones by 3. 3 over 18 is 1/6. I can divide these by 5. And then 5 over 30 is 1/6. So every time I did my division y over 6, I got 1 over 6. Now if you got 6 over 1, that means you did x over y, which is incorrect. Okay? It shows you that it's still a proportional, it does show you that it's a proportional relationship because you got the same thing every time. However, you're not going to get the right constant of proportionality because my constant of proportionality is 1 over 6. And we get to leave it as that fraction. I don't have to actually divide and change it to a decimal. I get to just leave it as a fraction. So my equation is y equals 1 over 6 times x. Because I replace that value here with my constant of proportionality. Notice how this is the graph of that relationship. Notice how this graph makes a perfectly straight line, and that straight line goes through the origin. Every proportional relationship, if I were to graph the points, they make a perfectly straight line, and that straight line goes through the origin. So this graph shows that it is proportional just because it's straight and it goes through the origin. Okay, so this one, 15 bicycles are produced each hour. So x represents the number of hours, y will represent the amount of bikes produced. So we want to show that the relationship between the number of bikes produced and the number of hours is proportional, then we want to write the equation. So if 15 bikes are produced each hour, if they work 1 hour, that means 15 bikes are produced. Well, what happens if they work 2 hours? Well, I multiplied by 2, so that means I'm going to multiply by 2. That means that 30 bikes would be produced, so that's 15 per hour. 3 hours, I'm going to go up by another 15, so that's 45 bikes are produced. And then finally, 4 hours means I'm going to add another 15 to get to 60. So each one of these ratios is y divided by x is 15 over 1. This is 30 over 2, which would simplify to 15 over 1. This is 45 over 3, which is also 15 over 1. And this one's 60 over 4, which is also 15 over 1. So that 15 over 1 is really just 15. So therefore, my equation is y equals 15 times x. X is the number of hours. I can plug in if they worked 7 hours, I would multiply by 15. That's going to tell me how many bikes are produced, which is y. Okay. Finally, this graph right here shows the relationship between the amount of time that a backpacker hikes and the distance traveled. What does the point 5, 6 represent, and what is the equation? So if I look at this point right here, what does that point represent? Because the 5 is the x value, the 6 is the y value. So we always remember that the first number in an ordered pair is x, the second number is the y. So here's my x values, is always on the bottom. If we need to label this, label this. And then this is always the y. So if I go 5, 6, that gives me right here. What that shows me, well, if we look here, this says the amount of time in hours, and this is the distance in miles. So the backpacker took 5 hours to hike 6 miles. So that's what that point represents. The backpacker took 5 hours to hike 6 miles. Now, I already know this is a proportional relationship because it's a straight line that goes to the origin. So what I can do from here is, because I already have a point, I have my x and I have a y. This is just like a table. This is just like having a table where I had 6 for my y and 5 for my x. So we know that to figure this out, I have to do y divided by x. Make sure we put a big star next to that. Okay. So y divided by x, so that's be 6 divided by 5. And I'm going to leave it as that fraction. So that's 6 divided by 5 times x. I could actually do the division. And if I did, 6 divided by 5 would give me 1.2. So that means that they're hiking 1.2 miles every hour. Okay. So things to remember, we're going to write it down again. Y divided by x every single time. People always mix those up. So write down y divided by x. And that's all I got for you guys. So I hope this helped. If you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. And make sure you do the independent practice. If you do not do the independent practice, no credit. Okay? All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Critias out.